Hi. In keeping with our theme for episode 112, and that's the app Bonanza, first quarter for 2023, I am demonstrating another app. This time, I'll be demonstrating an app from Samsung in the way of the Samsung Internet Browser. Like many browsers on our phone, this one too is based on Chromium. For today's demonstration, I'll be utilizing my Pixel 7 Pro running Android 13 QPR2 Beta 2. And for speech services, I am again employing the services of the Google Speech Services. I am on my home screen now and will navigate my way to an icon on my home screen simply entitled Internet. I'll tap on that and we'll proceed from here.
Internet. Samsung Internet. Browse faster.
Upon launching the app, we heard Samsung Internet browse faster. What I will do at this point is double tap to let it read from here about the information, and at the bottom is the continue button. I'll now triple tap and let it read this whole screen.
Enjoy fast and simple browsing on your phone or tablet. Protect your privacy. Automatically block companies from tracking where you go on the web. You can turn smart anti-tracking off in privacy settings. Enhance your browsing experience. Try convenient features such as video assistant and translator. By continuing, you agree to the terms and conditions and privacy notice. Continue button.
There you have it, and at the very bottom is that continue button. I will now tap on Continue button.
Continue button. Internet. Quick access heading.
We are now on a page and we heard Quick Access. Above the screen from left to right is an edit field where you will type your internet address if you want to go to a website. Below that, though, on the right-hand corner, just about an inch from the very top corner, we have an edit button.
Edit button.
This edit button would come in handy later on as you disable some things or add some things to your home screen. Moving down, we got
Block backward redirections heading.
Block backward redirections heading. And this by default is off. You want to turn it on.
Turn on button.
And I'm going to tap here to turn it on. But before I turn it on, let's move down and see what else is here before we turn it on.
Stop sites from redirecting you to ads and other unwanted content.
And that's the last one there. Below that, though, we have some buttons and tabs at the bottom. Let's back up one step, though, and turn on that redirection when you hit the back.
Turn on button.
I tap here.
Block backward redirections turned on. Your back button's safe again.
And now let's go to the bottom that I mentioned a few seconds ago, and that's the fact that we have some buttons and tabs here at the very bottom part of the screen. Starting from the bottom left, we have the following, and I'll be going right from here. We've got
Back button disabled.
the back button. In other words, when I have tapped on a URL, for example, and has taken me to that URL content, and I want to go back, I'll tap this to go back, and we heard it disabled because I haven't gone to anything yet. To the right of that, we've got
Forward button disabled.
Forward, and that too is disabled because I haven't tapped on any URLs yet. Next,
Home button.
this one says Home button, so it's a tab that if I tap on, I'll be in the Home tab. Moving next to the right,
Bookmarks button.
moving right,
Tabs button.
is the tabs. In other words, if you tap here, you'll see how many tabs you have opened and things like that. On the right of that,
Tools button.
we have the Tools button. Let's go on now and tap on Tools. I'll now tap here to activate Tools.
Samsung Internet. Downloads, button, row 1, column 1, in grid, 4 rows, 4 columns.
I am now sitting on the first item here that says Downloads, and there are 4 rows. From left to right, we got like 4 items on each row. Moving from the first item here that is Downloads, going right, we got
History, button, column 2.
History. That's where you go in to check your history. Going right.
Saved pages, button, column 3.
Saved pages. Pages you decide to choose to save. Next, to the right of that,
Add page to, button, disabled, column 4.
we got Add Page to, and it's disabled because we're not on a web page now, so we cannot add any pages. In other words, if you want to add a page to a group later on, because we'll be seeing something called groups in tabs, you could choose to add something to a group. Moving to the second row, starting from the left, we got
Share, button, disabled, row 2,
Share
column
disabled.
1.
Going right.
Light theme sites, button, column 2.
Light theme sites. In other words, if you go to a website by default, because it follows your system settings, I have the dark mode turned on for my system. But if I navigate to a web page, for example, blindandroidusers.com, and I want that blind Android users page to be a light page, not following my system setting, when I tap here, it will ask me for that web page address, and I'll type in blindandroidusers.com. Moving right,
Add blockers, button, column 3.
Add blockers, meaning you could tap here and choose from the many ad blockers that Samsung provides. I think that ad card is even one of those. To the right of that,
Find on page, button, disabled, column 4.
Find on page, that's to find a particular item on the page. And of course, it's disabled because I'm not on any web page yet. Moving to the third row, we got
Desktop site, button, disabled, row 3, column 1.
Desktop sites disabled because I'm not on a web page yet. Moving right.
Text size, button, disabled, column 2.
Text size, meaning you could change how your text looks, how you want to make it bigger or smaller, and all of that. To the right of that, we got
Zoom, button, disabled, column 3.
You could choose to zoom those pages and things like that. Next,
Add-ons, button, column 4.
we have add-ons, and here you could go in and add different items and things like that. Frankly, I'm not going to go into all of these things, or maybe just a few of them, because if I were to go into all of these things, it will take the entire podcast or episode to do that. So I'm not going into these things. You can go into these things on your own and see the things in here that you would like to enable. Now, moving to the last row, starting from the left,
Print PDF, button, disabled,
Print
row 4,
PDF,
column 1.
and it's disabled because I do not have any PDF showing up here. Next,
Privacy, button, column 2.
privacy. Next,
Settings, button, column 3.
settings, and that's the last item here at the bottom right. Let's go ahead though and tap on these settings because it also has some things in here we need to take a look at. I'll now tap on settings.
Internet settings. Navigate up, button, out of grid.
Tapping
Showing
on
items
internet
1 to 14
settings,
of
we
18.
heard navigate up because it's sitting there on the top left corner where the navigate up button is located. I'll now move my finger down and go from here. Putting my finger down, here's what we got.
Sync with Samsung Cloud. Sign into your Samsung account to sync your bookmarks, saved pages, and more. Enlist 18 items.
The first item we heard is to sync with the Samsung Cloud. I do want to mention here in passing that there's no desktop browser for the Samsung Internet browser. However, if you sync with your Samsung Cloud, for example, when you save pages and things like that, you can install a Chrome extension that you should be able to access your saved pages on your Samsung Cloud from your Chrome browser. Let's move on down.
Homepage, quick access.
Homepage, quick access. And this is where we find those different things like YouTube, eBay, Google, and all of that. You could tap here and remove things or add to it. Let's move down.
Address bar search, Google.
Address bar search, Google. That's the default search engine. If you tap here, though, you could go choose whichever search engine you would prefer, things like Yandex or the Chinese Baidu and all of those, a bunch of them in here. I do want to mention here, too, though, that even when you have selected a default engine, when you tap in the search, you can choose to say, I want to search using a different engine instead of my default. Next, we got
Layout and menus.
layout and menus, and that's how you want to see whether your stuff is going to be laid out, how it is going to be, and all of that. As I indicated, I'm not going to go into these things. You can tap and go into these things so that we don't make this any longer than it's supposed to be. Next, we got
Web page view and scrolling.
Next, we got web page view and scrolling. Next,
High contrast mode, switch, off.
high contrast mode is switched off if you have some usable site and you would rather have it in high contrast mode. You could tap here to enable that. Moving down, we got
Privacy, heading.
we have a heading for privacy, and beneath that, this is what we got.
Browsing privacy dashboard.
Browsing privacy dashboard. Below that,
Personal browsing data.
personal browsing data. Moving down,
Privacy notice.
privacy notice. Down,
Permissions.
we have something called permissions. You can go in here and look at these things. Next,
Discontinue use of Samsung Internet.
we now come across something that says discontinue Samsung Internet use. In other words, if I tap here, I could go in and choose to delete everything that I have done on Samsung and stop using the browser. Let's go in here real quick and show you what I'm talking about.
Discontinue use of Samsung Internet. Navigate up, button, out of list.
And I'll move my finger down.
Discontinue use of Samsung Internet.
I will now triple tap and let it read this page. At the bottom is the discontinue. So I'm going to triple tap with 2 fingers.
Tap the button below to erase all your Samsung Internet data. Any data you've synced to Samsung Pass or Samsung Cloud will remain in those services. If you only want to delete your personal data while continuing to use Samsung Internet, go to Delete browsing data. In Internet settings. Discontinue use, button.
So in other words, if you do not intend on deleting your whole Samsung experience with the internet browser, but all you want to delete is some things, then you need to go to the settings and choose the one that it just talked about. And at the bottom is that delete. And I'm not going to delete that. I'm going to go back.
Internet settings. Discontinue use of Samsung Internet. In list, 18 items.
Next,
Sites and downloads.
sites and downloads. Next,
Useful features.
useful features. Let's see what some of these useful features are. Let's tap here.
Useful features. Navigate up, button, out of list.
Moving my finger down,
Video, heading, in list, 9 items.
we come across a heading that says video. And moving my finger down,
Allow autoplay videos, switch, on.
we come across allow auto video playing, and it's switched on by default, meaning if you're on a YouTube channel, for example, or YouTube page, and when it finishes playing the current video, it'll advance to the next video. Next,
Video assistant. Get advanced controls for videos on websites.
Video Assistant. In here, I'm just going to tell you what it does. You can go in here, though, to experience it, but basically you could set it up to where you could adjust volumes by swiping up or down on the left side, and by moving to the next video or whatever by swiping up on the right side and things like that. and or double tapping to do other activities. So you can go in here and check it out. Next, below that we got,
Video assistant, switch on.
and that video assistant is switched on. If you turn this off, then what I just described above is not going to be available. So moving down,
Address bar, heading.
address bar heading, and moving down,
Show reader mode button. Tap the reader mode button in the address bar to show a simplified version of web pages with long text content. Switch off.
so this is off by default. So if you want to enable that, I'm going to enable this so that I'll have that reader mode there by the address bar. So when I'm reading an article, I could tap on that reader mode and have a clean looking article.
On.
Below that, we got
Open links in other apps. Open links in a related app instead of Samsung Internet. Switch off.
and that is off. So for example, if you don't want links in an app to be opened in the Samsung browser, then you turn this one on so that when you have a link in an app, it will open within that app instead of opening using the Samsung browser if you've set the Samsung browser to be your default. Next,
Get news notifications.
we got something says get news notifications,
Get news notifications. Switch off.
and that is off. Moving on.
Quick suggest. Get exclusive deals, see reviews, and compare products while you shop online. Disabled.
It says it's disabled and there's an off-on button there.
Quick suggest. Switch off.
That is
Disabled.
also disabled. And that would be the last item on this page. I'll now go back.
Internet settings. Useful features. In list, 18 items.
Now continuing from useful features, the next item below that will be
Labs.
labs. And basically this will be experimental things that Samsung is experimenting with. If you want, you could turn them on. Next,
About Samsung Internet.
about Samsung Internet.
Contact us.
And the last item here is contact us. I'm going to go back though to the menu I because I needed to touch on a couple of things before we bring this to a close. So now navigating my way to the menu I.
Tools. Button.
We are now back on the menu I page where we got started and we're sitting on tools. Before we bring this to a close though, there are 3 items here that I would like to touch on. The first one is going to be the one that says Edit, found near the top right corner. And we'll also look at the one that says Home. That's the tab that says Home. And then we'll close with the one that says Tab. I will start though with the Home. So I'm going to tap on the one that says Home. This will make sense to you when we go to Edit.
Home. Button.
Tapping here.
Quick access. Web view.
Now we are on a page that has some preset web pages like I mentioned earlier on. Putting my finger down,
Google.
we got Google,
Facebook.
Facebook,
Amazon. Galaxy Shop. YouTube. eBay. TurboTax. Booking.com. Walmart. Expedia. Pinterest. Games. News. Wayfair. Lowe's.
and Lowe's is the last item here. If you scroll down the page, though, you're going to find what is called News Feed. I'll scroll down.
Meta to reinstate Trump on Facebook. Instagram CBS News 5 hours ago.
Move my finger
Link.
down.
Conjoined twins successfully separated at Texas hospital CBS News 8 hours ago. Link.
If I scroll down,
Teacher shot by 6-year-old student claims school failed to act on warning CBS News 11 hours.
that's really sad. Moving down,
Monterey Park shooting survivors. Residents attend vigil.
really sad news. So as you can see, below that is some news feed. Now, if you don't want this news feed on your home page, or if you don't want any of these other things we saw above, things like Google, Facebook, and Wayfair, Lowe's, and all of that, you can remove those things. Let's go to Edit now and start here.
Edit.
That's that edit from the top right, just about an inch from the top right corner. I tap here.
Edit quick access. Navigate up, button.
Tapping on that, we heard Edit quick access. In other words, you can choose to not have any of these things on your home page. I'll move my finger down so you'll see what I'm talking about.
Shortcuts, 1 of 6.
There's the shortcuts. If I tap here,
No items selected. Internet. Quick access heading, out of list.
as I tap on the shortcuts, you'll see all of those items that we saw on the home page, things like Google. I'll put my finger down.
Not checked. Google, checkbox.
Google not checked. Move my finger right.
Not checked. Facebook, checkbox.
Right.
Not checked. Amazon, checkbox.
So in other words, you could check these things, and once you check them, you can tap on remove. So you're editing that home page. For example, let's say I check.
Checked. Amazon, checkbox.
I checked Amazon. When you finished checking the ones you want, or for example, that I just checked Amazon, at the very bottom, we got a couple buttons. To the left, we've got
Rename button.
rename. So if I want to rename that Amazon to something else, maybe I want to call it Blind Android Users Shopping Site or something stupid like that, I could tap there to change the name of the icon. And to the right of that is the delete.
Delete button.
I tap that, that would delete the icon. I'll go back though to the previous page and continue.
1 item selected. Edit quick access. Navigate up, button.
Moving my finger down past that shortcuts,
Other content to show, 2 of 6.
other content to show. And this is more like a heading. Below that we got
Privacy report, 3 of 6.
this privacy report. If you want that shown,
Switch, on.
there's the switch button to the right of it. Next,
Not checked. Most visited pages, radio button, 4 of 6.
we now have radio buttons. You could check this so that the most visited pages will show on that home screen. Next,
Checked. News feed, radio button, 5 of 6.
there we are. There is our news feed, which is checked by default. If I do not, however, want this news feed to show below my items on the home page, then below that is the last radio button, and that will say none.
Not checked. None, radio button, 6 of 6.
That's the last item, and I'm going to tap here to check it, meaning I do not want to see the news feed on my home page.
Selected.
And now I'll move back.
Internet. Protected you from 4 tracking attempts this week. Out of list.
I just moved back to the main UI, and I'm in the main home page now.
Booking.com.
I have all of those shortcuts here. Now, if I scroll down, however, all I hear is,
Protected you from 4 tracking attempts this week.
and that's all I have. I don't have any more of the news feed, and below that I have those other buttons that I showed earlier,
Back, button.
and
Forward, home, button. Bookmarks. Tabs, tools,
that's it. That's all that I have now. Now, before we close this demonstration, let's look at one last item, and that will be the tabs.
tabs, button.
Tab here.
Tabs. Choose how to view your open tabs. Selected, list preview, list, radio button.
So the first item, how you want to view your tabs, and we have a list.
Not selected, stack preview, stack, radio button.
You could choose to stack them. Next,
Not selected, grid preview, grid, radio button.
you could choose the grid view. Next,
Cancel, button.
there's the cancel.
OK, button.
And OK. Now, there was something I was talking about. For example, if I had searched for a web page, let's say if I'd gone to blindandroidusers.com, and I tap on the tabs, and I come here, blindandroidusers.com is going to be here, and there will be a new button near the top right, which when tapped on, which is like more options. And when I tap on that, it's going to have some items in there, including one that says group. And when I tap on the one that says group, then I could choose to put blind Android users in a group. In other words, you're grouping similar pages. So if I want to group things like have to do with Android from an accessibility viewpoint, then I will group all of them into that name that I would give it, which would be Android related or Android with respect to accessibility or something like that. And you can move pages to this group and you can create as many groups as you want. I think it's a neat way to organize your pages so you don't have tabs and tabs all over the place. You can just group things into like folders, but there are tabs that you give them names that's appropriate for the group that you've created for them. And that will be the quick overview of the Samsung Internet. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Warren. I've said this in the show notes, but you don't need a Samsung phone to use the Samsung Internet Browser, by the way. It will run on other phones. So I know some of you have views on this. So, Doug, what's your take on the Samsung Internet Browser?
Well, I honestly just don't like it. I find it super laggy. I've had many times where the DNS app blocker that I'm regularly using just glitches right out and still allows a whole bunch of ads to come through. So I've just had more difficulties and more problems with it than it's really worth me, struggling with. The layout may make sense. It may be an easier layout than Chrome, but I find functionality is just not there for me.
John, you have about 1 billion Samsung devices. Do you use it or do you tend to use a different browser?
I use it as my backup. I use Chrome most of the time, but if a page is giving me difficulties, I'll either go to Firefox or Samsung Internet. But I also wanted to say that Warren kind of proved your point because I'm pretty sure he did that demo from a Pixel. I don't think he used a Samsung phone. At least that's the conclusion I'm jumping to based on some of his how the TTS was behaving. But I also wanted to point out that it was very kind of him to wait to do this demonstration until Samsung Internet was working properly with Jishua or CSR, because for the longest time you haven't been able to use CSR with Samsung Internet, and I'm sure that's why he decided to do the demo for it right now.
I did not even know that it was having any problems with the confused screen reader, John. So that's a good coincidence, to say the least.
So I don't know if anyone reads spy fiction on here, but do you think that's what secretly reveals that Warren is a Jishua employee? The fact he knew that it was going to work with Jishua and he picked that moment to demonstrate it, John. I think that's what happened, isn't it?
Yeah, but
he
demonstrated
comes on here
foreknowledge. Acts like he doesn't know. Yeah,
as the best double agents do.
And he protests so much about that he'll never use commentary screen reader, and maybe.
But at least he's looking out for the listeners, and he didn't want to demonstrate something that wouldn't work with all screen readers. So that's good.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you guys, confused screen readers users out there. However, no, I was unaware. I just want to say that for the record, I am not a confused screen reader user.
All right. But did you use a Pixel for the demonstration?
I did. And frankly, unlike Cam, however, I find Samsung Internet to be actually even faster than Chrome. So, and it's a cleaner layout, and you have that reader mode. I know we have the simplified whatever on the Chrome, but frankly, there are more controls on the Samsung. You have better customization than you can ever have on Chrome.
Yeah, it is a very nice browser. I like it.
iPhone, what do you think of it?
I don't mind it, and I use it as a backup as well, because the reason I really like using Chrome is because then I can carry on where I left off on my laptop, and I don't think you can do that with the Samsung one. I may be wrong, but I'm not sure that there's a Samsung Internet browser for Windows, is there?
Is that what that Samsung Cloud thing does, or does it not do it quite
No,
that well?
there's none for the browser. For the desktop, as I indicated in my demo. So, if you want to, however, though, have your Samsung stuff, brought up to your Google Chrome, for example, like Ed says, then you log on to the Samsung Cloud, and all your stuff get exported there, and you can just plug in that plugin, and you should be able to have all of your bookmarks from your Samsung browser on your Chrome.
I know it's doable, but that's a faff, and I'm not doing it. So
see, I listened to your demo, Warren, as you know from my comment.
And I did.
Good.
The oldest I've used Samsung Internet Browser was back in Android 2.3.6 days. So that time, Internet in general on the phones was not accessible. And I don't remember what browser I used after that, but it was the worst browser at that time.
That was quite a long time ago.
Ah, come on, Austin! You can't judge something based on 10 years ago. I mean, Chrome
I'm not
was
judging
crap
it now, but I'm just saying that I used it that time.
So you haven't used it since?
No, I've not used it since.
Do you use Chrome then?
Yeah, I use Chrome a lot.
Oh, okay.